If you think your Ford will easily make it past 100,000 miles just because it's reliable, you're already making a mistake. Most engines don't fail randomly. They fail because of habits, and I'm sure that you're doing at least a few of these things without even realizing it. So let's begin. Number 13. Ignoring proper warm-up, especially on EcoBoost. This is one of the most common mistakes Ford owners make, and the worst part is they don't even realize how much damage they're causing over time. You start your truck or SUV, wait maybe 10 to 15 seconds, and then you're already driving like everything is ready to go. The problem is, it's not. When your engine is cold, the oil hasn't fully circulated yet. That means key components like your turbo, pistons, and internal bearings are not properly lubricated. In Ford EcoBoost engines, this is even more critical because you're dealing with a turbocharged system that relies heavily on proper oil flow to survive long-term. If you start driving aggressively or even just push the engine a bit too early, you're creating unnecessary friction inside the engine. Over time, that friction turns into wear, and that wear turns into expensive problems that show up way earlier than they should. This is how engines that should easily go past 150,000 miles start feeling tired before even hitting 100K. You don't need to sit there for 5 minutes warming up your car, but you do need to give it a minute or two and drive gently at the beginning. Let the oil do its job, let the engine reach a proper operating temperature, and then you can use the power. Most people skip this completely, and they end up paying for it later without even knowing why. Number 12. Turning off the engine right after driving hard. This one kills turbos faster than almost anything else, especially in Ford EcoBoost engines. You've probably done it before without thinking about it. You've been driving on the highway, maybe accelerating hard, maybe towing or just pushing the engine, and then you arrive somewhere and immediately shut the engine off. What most people don't realize is that your turbo is still extremely hot at that moment. We're talking about very high temperatures and components spinning at insane speeds. When you turn off the engine right away, you're also cutting off the oil flow that keeps that turbo lubricated and cooled down. So what happens? The oil that remains inside the turbo starts to burn and break down due to the heat. Over time, this creates carbon deposits inside the turbo system, which reduces efficiency and eventually leads to failure. This doesn't happen overnight, but it builds up slowly until one day you're dealing with a costly repair that could have been avoided. If you've been driving your Ford hard, especially in something like an F-150 or Explorer with an EcoBoost engine, the smartest thing you can do is let it idle for about 30 to 60 seconds before shutting it off. That small habit alone can dramatically extend the life of your turbo, and almost nobody does it. Number 11. Following factory oil change intervals blindly. This is one of the biggest traps Ford owners fall into because they trust the numbers they see in the manual without questioning them. You'll often see oil change intervals around 7,500 to 10,000 miles, and people assume that means it's perfectly safe to wait that long every time. In reality, that's where a lot of engines start going downhill. Those intervals are based on ideal driving conditions, not real life. Real life includes short trips, traffic, aggressive driving, extreme temperatures, and inconsistent maintenance habits. All of that breaks down your oil much faster than what the manufacturer assumes. In turbocharged engines like the EcoBoost lineup, oil quality is even more important because it's doing more than just lubricating the engine. It's also protecting the turbo, which operates under extreme heat and pressure. When the oil starts to degrade, it loses its ability to protect these components properly. What ends up happening is sludge buildup, reduced lubrication, and increased internal wear. You won't notice it immediately, but over time your engine becomes less efficient, less responsive, and more prone to serious issues. This is exactly how engines that should last well over 150,000 miles start having problems much earlier. If you actually care about making your Ford last, you should be changing your oil sooner than the factory recommendation, not later. It's one of the simplest things you can do, but also one of the most ignored. Number 10. Using cheap oil and filters. Trying to save a bit of money on oil and filters is one of those decisions that seems harmless in the moment, but it slowly destroys your engine over time. A lot of Ford owners think oil is just oil, and a filter is just a filter, so they go for the cheapest option available and call it a day. That's where the problem starts. Not all oil is created equal, especially when you're dealing with turbocharged engines like Ford's EcoBoost. These engines run hotter, under more pressure, and depend heavily on high-quality oil to maintain proper lubrication and cooling. Cheap oil breaks down faster, loses its protective properties sooner, and struggles to handle those conditions. The same thing happens with low-quality filters. A cheap filter doesn't trap contaminants as effectively, which means dirt and metal particles keep circulating through your engine. Over time, that leads to increased wear on critical components, and once that damage starts, it doesn't reverse. In trucks like the F-150 or SUVs like the Explorer and Escape, where people often rely on their vehicle daily or even for heavy use, this becomes even more critical. You're not just casually driving, you're putting real stress on the engine. Spending a little more on quality oil and a proper filter is one of the easiest ways to protect your engine long-term. Trying to save money here almost always ends up costing you much more later, and most people only realize it when it's already too late. Number 9. Ignoring transmission maintenance. If there's one thing that Ford owners consistently underestimate, it's transmission maintenance. And this is exactly how people end up with massive repair bills before even reaching 100,000 miles. A lot of drivers assume that if the car is shifting fine, then everything must be okay. No warning lights, no obvious issues, so they just keep driving without ever thinking about the transmission fluid. The reality is that transmission fluid degrades over time, just like engine oil, and when it does, it stops doing its job properly. In many Ford models, especially trucks like the F-150 or SUVs like the Explorer, the transmission is already working hard. Add towing, stop-and-go traffic, or aggressive driving, and you're putting even more stress on it. If the fluid isn't clean and properly maintained, heat builds up, lubrication decreases, and internal components start wearing out much faster. By the time you actually feel something like rough shifting, slipping, or hesitation, the damage is often already done. What could have been solved with a relatively simple fluid change turns into a much bigger and more expensive problem. Regular transmission maintenance is not optional if you want your Ford to last. Ignoring it is one of the fastest ways to kill the longevity of your vehicle, and it's something far too many people overlook until it's too late. Number 8. Driving in eco mode. All the time, wrong usage. Eco mode sounds like a good idea on paper. Better fuel economy, smoother driving, less aggressive throttle response. And for certain situations, it actually makes sense. The problem is when people use it all the time, thinking they're doing their engine a favor. What eco mode does is keep your engine at lower RPMs and reduces how aggressively the vehicle responds. That might save you some fuel, but it also means the engine isn't operating in a range where it can properly clean itself out, especially in modern engines like Ford's EcoBoost. Over time, this kind of driving leads to carbon buildup, incomplete combustion, and a generally less efficient engine. You might not notice it right away, but gradually the engine becomes more sluggish, less responsive, and more prone to issues. This is especially common in vehicles like the Escape or Explorer, where people mostly drive in the city and rely on eco mode constantly. The engine never really gets pushed, never reaches higher RPMs where it can burn off deposits, and that buildup starts to accumulate. Eco mode isn't the enemy, but using it incorrectly is. Your engine needs variation. It needs to be driven normally, sometimes even pushed a bit so everything stays clean and functioning as it should. Running it in eco mode all the time might feel like you're protecting it, but in reality, you could be slowly hurting it. Number 7. Short trips only. Engine never reaches proper temperature. This is one of those habits that seems completely harmless because it's just everyday driving. Quick trips to the store, short commutes, moving the car around. Nothing extreme. But if that's all your Ford ever does, you're slowly creating problems inside the engine without realizing it. When you drive short distances, your engine often doesn't reach its full operating temperature. That's a problem because a lot of the engine's internal processes depend on heat to work properly. Moisture, fuel residues, and contaminants build up during combustion, and they need proper temperature and time to burn off. If the engine never gets there, those contaminants stay inside. Over time, that leads to sludge formation, reduced oil effectiveness, and internal buildup that affects performance and longevity. This is especially common in vehicles like the Ford Escape or Explorer used mostly for city driving. On top of that, cold starts are the most stressful moments for an engine. If your driving consists mostly of short trips, you're putting your engine through that stressful phase over and over again without giving it time to stabilize and operate efficiently. The solution is simple, but most people don't think about it. Every now and then, your engine needs a proper drive, something longer, steady, allowing it to reach and maintain operating temperature. It's one of the easiest ways to keep things clean internally, and it makes a bigger difference than most people expect. Number 6. Ignoring early warning signs. This is where small problems turn into big, expensive ones. Your Ford will almost always give you signs before something serious happens, but most people either ignore them or delay dealing with them until it's too late. It can start with something subtle. A slight vibration, a bit of hesitation when accelerating, a strange noise that wasn't there before, or even a small drop in performance. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent, so people keep driving like nothing's wrong. The issue is that these early signs are often your only chance to fix something cheaply and quickly. Once you ignore them, the problem keeps developing in the background. What could have been a simple fix turns into a much more complex and expensive repair. For example, a minor misfire caused by something simple like worn spark plugs can over time affect combustion and put extra stress on other components. A small issue in the cooling system can slowly lead to overheating problems if it's not addressed early. By the time a warning light comes on or the problem becomes obvious, the damage has usually progressed much further. This is why paying attention to how your vehicle feels and sounds is so important. If something feels off, it probably is. Acting early is what separates a well-maintained Ford from one that starts falling apart before it should. Number 5. Using regular fuel when it needs premium. This is one of the most misunderstood topics, especially with Ford's EcoBoost engines. A lot of owners see that their vehicle can run on regular fuel and assume that means it's the best option to use all the time. Technically, the engine will run, but that doesn't mean it's operating the way it should. EcoBoost engines are designed to perform better with higher octane fuel. When you use regular fuel consistently, the engine has to adjust to prevent knocking, which often means reducing performance and efficiency. Over time, this can also affect how smoothly the engine runs under load. In situations where you're accelerating hard, towing, or putting extra stress on the engine, using lower quality fuel can make things worse. The engine has to work harder to compensate, and that added stress builds up over time. You might not notice a huge difference day to day, but over thousands of miles, it adds up. Reduced efficiency, less optimal combustion, and more strain on internal components. For trucks like the F-150 or SUVs like the Explorer, where people often demand more from the engine, this becomes even more relevant. Using the right fuel isn't about being fancy. It's about allowing the engine to operate the way it was designed to. If you want your Ford to last and perform properly, this is one of those details you shouldn't ignore. Number 4. Carbon buildup, intake, valves never cleaned. This is one of those problems that most Ford owners don't even know exists, but it slowly builds up until it starts affecting performance in a noticeable way, and by that point it's already been developing for a long time. In many modern Ford engines, especially EcoBoost, you're dealing with direct injection. Unlike older systems, fuel is sprayed directly into the combustion chamber instead of over the intake valves. That means the valves don't get cleaned by fuel anymore. Over time, oil vapors and combustion residues stick to those valves and start forming carbon deposits. At first, it's minor. You won't feel anything. But as it builds up, airflow gets restricted, combustion becomes less efficient, and the engine starts losing performance. You might notice rough idling, hesitation, reduced power, or even misfires. And the worst part is, regular maintenance doesn't fix this. Oil changes won't remove it, and neither will basic servicing. In vehicles like the F-150 Escape or Explorer, where EcoBoost engines are common, this is a long-term issue that almost every owner will face if nothing is done about it. The solution usually involves more specialized cleaning methods like intake valve cleaning or walnut blasting, which many people only discover after the problem becomes obvious. Staying aware of this and addressing it before it gets severe can make a huge difference in how your engine performs over time. Number 3. Ignoring cooling system maintenance. The cooling system is one of the most neglected parts of any vehicle, and that's exactly why it causes so many problems down the line. Most people never think about it until something goes wrong, and when it does, it's usually not a small issue. Coolant doesn't last forever. Over time, it breaks down, loses its effectiveness, and can even become corrosive. When that happens, it stops protecting your engine from heat the way it should. In Ford engines, especially in trucks and SUVs that deal with heavier loads or more demanding driving conditions, maintaining proper temperature is critical. If the cooling system isn't working correctly, heat builds up slowly and starts affecting different components. You might not see an immediate overheating warning, but internal temperatures can still be higher than they should be. That extra heat accelerates wear, affects seals, and can eventually lead to serious issues like head gasket failure or warped components. The scary part is how silent this process can be. Everything feels normal until one day it doesn't, and by then, the damage is already significant. Keeping your cooling system in check, replacing coolant when needed, and making sure everything is functioning properly is one of the simplest ways to prevent some of the most expensive engine failures. Number 2. Ignoring spark plugs and ignition maintenance. Spark plugs are small, relatively cheap components, which is exactly why so many people overlook them. They don't seem important until they start causing problems. Over time, spark plugs wear out. The gap changes, the spark becomes weaker, and combustion becomes less efficient. When that happens, your engine doesn't burn fuel properly, which affects performance, fuel economy, and overall engine health. In Ford engines, especially turbocharged ones, proper combustion is even more important. If the spark isn't consistent and strong, you can start getting misfires, rough acceleration, and uneven engine behavior. At first, it might feel like a minor issue. Maybe the car doesn't feel as smooth as before, or there's a slight hesitation when you accelerate. But if you ignore it, that poor combustion starts affecting other parts of the engine. Unburnt fuel, extra stress on components, and increased wear over time all come from something as simple as neglected spark plugs. And the longer it's ignored, the worse it gets. Replacing spark plugs at the right intervals is one of the easiest and cheapest ways to keep your engine running properly. But it's something many Ford owners push off until they start noticing real problems. Number 1. Driving like it's a race car all the time. This is the kind of behavior that feels fun in the moment but quietly shortens the life of your vehicle over time. Constant hard acceleration, aggressive driving, and pushing the engine every time you get behind the wheel puts continuous stress on everything. Engines, transmissions, cooling systems, and even suspension components all wear faster when they're constantly pushed. It's not about occasional spirited driving, that's completely fine. The issue is when aggressive driving becomes your normal way of using the vehicle. In trucks like the F-150 or SUVs like the Explorer, people sometimes forget that these vehicles are not designed to be driven like performance cars all the time. They're built for durability, yes, but that doesn't make them indestructible. Repeated stress builds up gradually. More heat, more friction, more wear. You won't notice it immediately, but over time things start to break down earlier than they should. Driving your Ford with some mechanical sympathy doesn't mean driving slow or boring. It just means understanding that how you drive directly impacts how long your vehicle will last. Push it occasionally, enjoy it when you want, but don't treat every drive like it's a race.